We're almost ready to start, and I would ask folks to turn their cell phones off. Just a reminder, because I think every meeting we have one that goes off. Sometimes it's mine. So it's reminding me as well as you.
Oh, there's a ding.
Yes. Okay, it's 4 o'clock, so we're going to call this meeting to order. First item is approval of the agenda, and I have a motion moved by Victor Hayes, seconded by Philip Smith, that the agenda for the regular council meeting held November the 8th, 2022 be approved as, are there any amendments, Kathy?
No, there are not.
So approved as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof by any member of council on any item on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll note that in the minutes. Have a motion moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Victor Hayes, that the minutes of the regular meeting held October the 25th, 2022 be approved as presented. Any questions, comments, or amendments to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Mayor's remarks, just a few remarks. There is an orientation meeting tomorrow night for those returning councillors and the new councillors. And it's at the Lions Hall in Verona, starts at 5 o'clock. And we're having dinner between 6 and 6:30, and there will be presentations by a number of people. So for those of you who are not returning, you won't have to go out to that. So for the rest of us, we will be there. And it's the first orientation of a number of orientations that will happen. I want to say to those who are not returning that are with us tonight, thank you very, very sincerely for all of the work and all of the years that you have given to this municipality, to this council, and as part of our team. We're going to miss you all. And we'll remember the good things about you. And I'm sure when the arguments heat up, we'll remember the bad things about you as well. So as you go forward and you have your Tuesday nights, second and fourth Wednesdays free, and all the committee work that you don't have to do, I'm sure there's other events that will fill the space. And remember, you're never say never that you won't be back. There's always another election every 4 years. So stay tuned. And again, thank you sincerely, everyone. All right. Any comments from anyone else? Sherry?
I just wanted to add to that, if you are okay, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say that it is a bit sad that today is our last council meeting, but I wanted to thank the community for giving me an opportunity to be on council. And I've enjoyed working with all of you around the table and staff, and thank my friends and family. And all of you, I've really enjoyed these past 2 terms, and I wish all of you who are continuing the best of luck, and new councillors the best of luck as well. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Brent?
I guess I'll add my 2 cents. It's been a privilege to be here at the table doing people's business for the last 8 years. And we haven't always seen eye to eye, but I have to comment on the professionalism of the people who sit at this table and the people who have supported those of us who sat at this table. And we've done the best that we could. And I think that I think all of us, regardless of where we've sat on any particular issue, we've kept the people of this community in our minds, and we still do. And the only thing I can say is for those people who are assuming their duties, I wish them luck, and I wish them sincerely success, because as a resident and a taxpayer of this community, when they do well, we all do well. So I wish you good luck, and I wish you much success in the future. And to those who are departing with me, I wish you good luck and much success in the years to follow.
Thank you, Brent. Okay. All right, let's move on then. We are at no deferred items, staff reports. And our first one is Finance and Treasury. And I have a motion moved by Victor Hayes and seconded by Philip Smith that council receive the check distribution reports totaling $791,794.82 as prepared by the treasurer for information. Any questions or comments on paying the bills? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. I just want to say for those who didn't tune in last council meeting that both Bill and Victor had some words last time.
Oh, I didn't.
No,
Nope,
Victor,
Tom
sorry,
did.
Tom did. That's right.
I
Sorry,
made
Victor.
speeches.
Victor does not make speeches. All right. All right. We're back to finances then. Moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Victor Hayes, that council approve the following apportionments of assessments as recommended by impact for 2022 as applicable for the following roll numbers. And there are the two of them that are on your list. Discussion? Questions? All those in favor? Carried. We did the bulk of those last meeting, Michael, eh?
Mayor, this is just a catch up and getting them all in.
The last few, okay. Moved by Victor Hayes, seconded by Philip Smith, that council for the Township of Central Frontenac approve the following reduction of assessment pursuant to the Municipal Act. Roll number 1039-10-030-0600 Mitchell, Barbara Fay for the period of June 2nd, 2022 to December 31st, 2022 as reported by impact. Reason raised by fire, demolition or otherwise 357 1DI. And roll number 1039-040-010-07800 Verona Animal Hospital Professional Corporation for the period of September 14th, 2021 to December 2021 as reported by impact. Reason ceased to be liable for tax at rate it was taxed, 357 1A. And further, the council approve an adjustment of taxes to be calculated by the tax department for the related period. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. And signing authority changes moved by Brent Cameron, seconded by Nikki Gowdy, that council for the Township of Central Frontenac hereby approves the removal of Jody League and authorizes the following individuals: J. Michael McGovern, Aaron Babcock, Stephanie Hammond, Janice Cahill, and Jessica Allen to sign for access to and control of the contents of such safe deposit box, and that this approval shall apply not only to the said safe deposit box, but to any other safe deposit box that may be leased by the Township of Central Frontenac. And further, that this resolution be forwarded to the Royal Bank of Canada and remain in force until such time it is no longer required. And further, that J. Michael McGovern, Aaron Babcock, Stephanie Hammond, Janice Cahill, and Jessica Allen be granted signing authority for any items for which Canada Post requires a signature. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Carried. It was. Crossing the T's and dotting the I's, eh? Moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Brent Cameron, that council receive this report for the 2021 financial statement change and approve the 2021 financial statements. Michael, do you want to just speak to this for a minute?
Yeah, so certainly, firstly, I'll apologize to council for this coming so late. Normally it's done before May. I'd like it done before March. There was a lot of challenges to overcome with switching from Caseware to the new FMW or PSD citywide budgeting software. And our auditors are very, very thorough. And there was corrections that were made each time it went back and forth. There was probably 3 or 4 weeks in between. But this particular adjustment we needed to, when MNP brought the report to council, we didn't have the final arena statements yet. So there was obviously just one change that had to be made. And then there was that fine tuning back and forth with the auditors that resulted in presenting it tonight.
Okay. Any questions from anyone? Philip?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Michael, the report from the auditors, is that the original report that came previously? They had 2 recommendations for controls. Have we implemented those 2 controls?
I'm going to guess not, because I've been working on trying to just get them done.
Probably be towards the end on the recommendations.
There's no internal control weaknesses. No formal policy in place for estimating useful lives of capital assets, which,
Page 5
yeah, so that's,
indicates there's no formal policy in place for authorizing, reviewing and documenting pay changes. And then no formal policy in place for estimating useful lives of capital assets.
and neither one has been finalized. We do have a procedure that we follow, but it's not an official approved council policy.
So that will be coming forward.
At some point, yes.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Carried.
Thank you, council.
Okay, development services next. We have a motion moved by Brent Cameron, seconded by Nikki Gowdy, that council receive the construction details report, October 2022 for information. And Andy's at the table to answer any questions or any comments you might have. Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. It certainly looks like you're continued to be busy, Andy.
Thank you, council.
Thank you. Moving on to fire and emergency services. Have a motion moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Brent Cameron, that council received the CFFR and the CFBLE activity report dated November the 8th, 2022 for information. Questions or comments on the report? Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief, I have 4 questions for you. 4. I see your lovely new vehicle out there. I was just wondering when you're going to have it stickered. Perfect. See, they're easy. In your report, you talk about the current number of firefighters that you have in the training, which is fabulous. Good to see the numbers up. Are you going to continue in the future? Are you going to continue to send the firefighters out for training, or are you going to try and start doing some in-house with the firefighters you have had trained by that facility?
Good question. So our plan in the future is eventually to do our own in-house training, but for now, until we complete all our level 2, we've got still the hazmat piece, and then the trainer facilitator piece has to be also done. And once that's complete, then we hope to do our own program. So in saying that, we have to design our own training programs, and then they have to be approved by the fire marshal's office. It's quite extensive work. It's a lot of preparation. So hopefully that'll happen sooner than later. I would say 12 to 18 months.
Following up, I went back to the Piccadilly Hall on Saturday, the Piccadilly Fire Hall, to see if anything had happened. And so
Nikki, closer to the mic.
I'm sorry, I was back at the Piccadilly Fire Substation on Saturday, and I want to follow up about the repairs.
Yes, so we are going to do those repairs. We have had to do some interior renovations at the municipal office. It's taken up the time from Terry to complete that work. We expect it should be done by the end of next week, and then we will get that. If Terry does get too busy, then I'll probably get a contractor to look at that, but we will get it done for you.
Okay, I picked up another piece of siding and put it by the building again
Thank
for
you.
you once.
Thank you.
And last question, I think it's great that the firefighters are going to do a Santa Claus parade in Sharpet Lake in December. Do we need to do anything as a council to help them?
No, I have not had a lot of contact with the firefighters that are doing it. We are looking at raising some funds for that. We had some success today with getting some things in place. I'm getting numerous phone calls from them just to see where they're at. But if there are some things that council can help with, I'll certainly pass them along. So I appreciate that.
Okay,
Maybe.
good. Say that
And
again.
also probably like we've done in the past, as council would be on one of the trucks for the float and stuff. So I think that'll come together as well, but we'll get that
Absolutely.
confirmed
If that's what
Yeah,
is wished to do.
council
then we
wish
can
to do.
that. Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, good.
all right.
Anything else on the activity report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried.
I'd just like to say to council that thank you very much for the support I've had since I've been here in January. We've done a lot. been very successful with with what we've done so far, but it's only with the support of council I've been able to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay. Okay, we are at the amendment to the procedural bylaw and moved by Brent Cameron, seconded by Nikki Gowdy. Whereas amendments are required to our current procedural bylaw in order to accommodate adjusted timing of the inaugural meeting in November instead of December. And it is desirous to modify the agenda for the inaugural meeting as set out in the current procedural bylaw. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council receives this report and considers passing the proposed bylaw to amend procedural bylaw 2017-42 as amended later in the meeting. Questions or comments? Cindy, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to alert council, we did make a last minute change to the bylaw. We added in a section because we decided that the committees, we're going to appoint the committee members at the inaugural, and our current procedural bylaw requires that those be appointed at the next regular meeting. So we did make a last minute change to the bylaw to add that into the schedule. It's number 12 on the chart. And then we also added paragraph 2, which amends paragraph 9.6. So I just wasn't sure, since that change was made so late in the day, I wasn't sure if you had seen that in your email.
Okay. And I believe also Jody sent out a list of the committees to all of the new councillors as well as the former councillors. So people will have some time to think about those before the inaugural meeting. Victor?
Yeah, just one comment. With regards to the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority, they have specifically asked that I return for the meeting in November because it's a budget meeting. So I don't know if that affects the procedural bylaw, or their concern is if they send somebody who is new, they won't have any idea or any decent input regarding the budget.
When is the meeting in November?
November 24th or something like that.
Nikki?
Quinte Conservation said the same, so their next meeting is about passing the budget.
And so is Mississippi Valley as well, because I got a call from them as well.
The one problem you have, and I think we should do a motion right now that allows those people to continue, because as of November the 15th,
New council.
you are no longer a councillor. So you could be an appointee for that meeting and give you the power.
Well, I don't know when the date, when the deadline was. That's something we need to look at. Did we look at that, Cindy, as to when?
I did look up in the act, and the new term does start November 15th. Yeah, according to the municipal act or I don't know if it's the elections act or municipal act.
Victor and then Bill.
One of the amendments to the Conservation Authorities Act was that representatives had to be council members, and to have citizen reps, you needed approval from the minister. And there's no way you would get that approval fast enough.
Well, then your conservation authority needs to get with the municipal act and move their meeting before the 15th of November, because everybody sitting at those tables will not be council members as of November the 16th. So I would recommend they move their meeting. So maybe we don't need to appoint interim, but it's a dilemma that I think they're going to need to deal with. It is the 17th.
Yeah, right.
And yours is the 20th. And Cindy Kelsey, which one's she on?
Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Quinte and Mississippi are fine. It will just be Rideau Valley.
So
No,
they had one
17th.
set, but I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, they had one set, but they canceled it, and I haven't got the new email yet to tell me exactly which day it is this month.
Okay. It's the 17th is Quinte after the 15th.
But Nikki is still going to be a counselor.
Yes,
And
Sure.
Cindy will still be a counselor.
that's true.
So it's only Rideau Valley
It's
with
only
me
Rideau.
that is going to be an issue.
Right.
And I don't think there is a resolution. It's too bad.
Yeah.
That they're not going to be able to move it fast enough. They're not going to be able to change their meeting fast enough.
You better give them all your input before the 15th.
Well, yeah, we've been going through the budget process the last couple of meetings, and it's the November meeting where it's like, okay, this is what we're sending to the townships.
Yeah.
So
So we basically will have a new rep on the 15th who will know nothing about the budget they're walking into on the 22nd.
Yeah, and hopefully that there will be enough returning members from the other municipalities that it's not going to be an issue.
Yeah.
But I don't see any resolution to this.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I
Okay.
just thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, good points. Okay, so on the procedural bylaw, any questions or comments on this motion? Nobody has a problem with changing it? All those in favor? Carried. Great. Lots of housekeeping work to do this meeting. Okay. Moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Brent Cameron, whereas council passed resolution 426/2022 at the last council meeting to consider a section 35 bylaw restricting the common law access to a portion of the road allowance between concession 10 and 11 Olden. And whereas notice to the public has been given and staff are now bringing the bylaw back for consideration with the amendments incorporating public comments. Now therefore be it resolved that council receive this report and considers passing the proposed section 35 bylaw later in the meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Bill McDonald, seconded by Sherry Wan, whereas council passed its bylaw to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw at its last meeting on October 25th, 2022. And whereas following the passage of the bylaw, it came to staff's attention that there was a technical error in the mapping such that the final versions of the maps showed an incorrect overlay of EP1 organic soils. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council receives this report for information, and if no appeals are filed, that staff are directed to commence a housekeeping bylaw to correct the mapping error. Do you want to, anybody need more explanation to that? This kind of stuff does happen. All those in favor? Carried. Good, we caught it now instead of later. Conservation authorities, moved by Sherry Wan, seconded by Bill McDonald, that council received the minutes of the MVCA's board meeting held September 21, 2022 for information. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Sherry Wan, seconded by Bill McDonald. The council receives the minutes of the QCA board's meeting held September 22nd, 2022 for information. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Sherry Wan, seconded by Bill McDonald. The council receives the minutes of the RVCA's board meeting held September 22nd, 2022 for information. Discussion, comments, all those in favor? Carried. Moving right along here. We have a motion moved by Sherry Wan, seconded by Bill McDonald. The council received the minutes of the District 4 Rec Committee meeting held August 16th, 2022 for information. Comments, questions? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Bill McDonald, seconded by Sherry Wan, that council received for information the minutes from the Charlotte Lake Farmers Market meeting held October 21, 2022. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Carried. Correspondence. Moved by Bill McDonald, seconded by Sherry Wan, that council received the following correspondence for information, and it's number 1 to 10 in your package. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, no delegations. We are at the public meetings. And our first is a road closure, Erdley. Moved by Bill McDonald, seconded by Sherry Wan, that council receives input from the public meeting and the accompanying report prepared by the deputy clerk. And further, that subject to the comments received at the public meeting, council approves the recommendation to stop up and close the unopened road allowance between concession 10 and 11 Kennebec, lying south of Kennebec Lake and north of Highway 7. And further, that staff are authorized to proceed with the next steps of arranging a survey and an appraisal of the land and bringing forward a bylaw to council to stop up, close and convey the said road allowance to the applicant and the property owner to the west as a lot addition to each property, subject to any easements as may be required by Hydro One Networks, Inc. Said bylaw to indicate that all costs relating to the registration of the bylaw and transfer documents on title be at the property owner's expense. Do we have anyone on the line that wants to speak to this?
If there is anyone attending virtually and you wish to speak on this, please use the raise hand feature and we can move you over to speak. And while we're waiting for the folks, just to give you an update, I did receive an email from Hydro this week confirming that there is a hydro line that crosses through. We knew that, was anticipating that. So we will be processing an easement on the road allowance. And I know there's, you don't need to speak. You don't have any concerns or anything. Okay. Is there anyone else here that wants to speak on this one? Doesn't look like it. So again, I'll just ask if there's anyone online that wishes to speak, to use the raise hand feature. I don't see anyone with their hands up. So I think we're good.
Okay. Any questions or comments from council on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. And the next one is Armstrong. Moved by Bill McDonald, seconded by Sherry Wan, that council receives input from the public meeting and the accompanying report prepared by the deputy clerk. And further, that subject to the comments received at the public meeting, council approves the recommendation to stop up and close the lane between lots 13 and 14, Plan 130, Craig's Island. And further, that staff are authorized to proceed with the next steps of arranging a survey, if required, and an appraisal of the land, and bringing forward a bylaw to council to stop up, close and convey the said road allowance to the applicant as a lot addition to the applicant's property, subject to any easements as may be required by Hydro One Network, Inc. Said bylaw to indicate that all costs relating to the registration of the bylaw and transfer documents on title be at the property owner's expense. Is there anyone that wants to speak to this one, Cindy?
And again, if there's anybody virtually who wishes to speak, you can use the raise hand feature and we'll move you over. While we're waiting, I did want to just clarify one small thing. I think it was out in the letters that I sent out. I referred to the lane being 12 feet in width and it's actually 6 feet. So I just wanted to clarify that for folks. It is the 12-foot one is at the rear of the lots, and the ones going in between to the water is 6 feet. So is there anybody there, Chris? Okay, do you want to go ahead and move them over, allowed to talk? And is that, I can't see that now, Mark? Oh, no, so. Okay. There you go. We can hear you.
All right, terrific. Thank you to everyone, the council, for letting us attend this virtually. It would be difficult to do this otherwise. I'm here. My name is Mark Folks. My mother, Isabel Folks, is the property owner of the lot that is at the end of the laneway. If you go from the shoreline to the back of the property, there's a 12-foot laneway that the 6-foot laneway ties into, and our property is on the back side of that. In addition, we also have some property at the other end of the island. We have several concerns, and my mother would like to probably say a few things, but certainly one of the things that we have concerns about is with that property that we have, access through the laneways is important for us when we need to get access to the property, whether it be for clearing trees, cutting things down, taking materials to the property. If we ever want to do development, those laneways are critical for us. In addition to something with this particular laneway, having it blocked off by the building, I'm just surprised that the council or the direction here seems to be rewarding someone to build upon a public roadway or public access way and rewarding them by selling the property to them. There's a lake that's not too far from us that had a similar occurrence where the property owner decided to rebuild his house and built too close to his property line in violation of the current codes there. He was a lawyer and he went and fought it for about 12 years. And eventually the town forced him to tear the house down, or the cottage down that he had built, because it violated the rules that were in place. And he was aware of that, and he just thought that he could get away without doing that. And I think this is another case where we're rewarding someone that's ignoring the rules, that's building the structure onto public property, onto a laneway that has public access. And you're rewarding them by selling the property to them. And the initial reason for having those laneways is to be able to have the property owners on the island to be able to have free access throughout the different property owners there, to the different cottages, to bring materials into the different properties. And if this laneway gets closed off and sold, it makes it much more difficult for us to get access to that property. So, it just seems that this was not the original intent of what was supposed to be done. And of course, the concern also down the road is that someone could build, say, an outhouse or a structure, or a woodshed onto the laneway, and then ultimately decide to make a petition and try to buy that property and close up laneways even further. Those laneways act as a buffer for us, for our property, from the other property owners. And we've had occurrences where we've had dumping done on the property from other property owners. And I think that if these laneways disappear, it's going to really impede things even further. And that's my concern going forward, and even future generations, my niece and nephew and our children going down the road. I think it's important that we try to maintain these laneways. This is my mother, Isabel, folks. Again, she's the property owner.
And I'm 94 years old, and I was born in Charlotte Lake. My parents and my grandparents were citizens there for years and years. We moved to Perth when I was 10, but we always came back to Charlotte Lake every summer for the summer. And Craig's Island is just, it's unbelievably beautiful at night. I've never seen stars and change of scenery every 10, 15 minutes. The whole family, my children, my grandchildren, and I just love Charlotte Lake. It's our home and away from home. And to hear that someone is being rewarded for violating, for bad behavior, it doesn't make sense to me. And for years and years, I understood that those laneways were open. I didn't know until a few days ago, and today I talked to the original owner of the island. It's the granddaughter. And no one has ever come over to clear those laneways except once that I am aware of. And that was when one of the people in the cottage owner phoned the town and asked them. Those laneways have never been kept open except for the people that worked on them. And from the island, it was never anybody from the town that cleared them. People on the island cleared them, if they were cleared at all. And sometimes we had a terrible time even trying to walk through. And my concern, my biggest concern, is that you're setting a precedent for bad behavior. And I see no reason why other people on the island would not follow Armstrong's example, build their places bigger, larger, and then, oh, well, Armstrong's did it, so we can buy the extra property. Why not? I mean, that's just, to me, logical and not rewarding someone who ignores the laws. Everybody on the island, I haven't heard of anyone that has done this in 125 years. And I think it's a terrible, terrible precedent.
Thank
And
you
my-
very
my-
much.
And my sister is Shirley Pruniak,
Yes.
and she has lived there at Charlotte. She retired there, lived across from the school, the old public school. And my daughter was planning to retire at Charlotte Lake. And she became a Canadian and American citizen, dual citizenship. So she could retire around Kingston and go to Charlotte for the summers. And her children love it. And the whole family are very much tied to Charlotte Lake.
Thank you, Council, for listening to us.
Thank you very much for your input.
But before you sign off, may I just ask a question to help clarify things?
Yes,
Have you ever used this particular lane to access the backlands?
Yes.
all the time.
And of course, once they
Before-
built. once they
Before or
built-
after the cottage was constructed?
Well, they rebuilt the cottage. So prior to them rebuilding the cottage, we used to use that laneway, that access, and then they rebuilt the cottage. And of course, that made it so that it went across the laneway. So it made it much more difficult. We used to go down to the 12-foot laneway and then cut down in between Armstrong's and Taylor's on that laneway. But of course, having the structure there made it a little bit more difficult, and we felt bad about walking on other people's property. We were trying to stick to the laneway.
Okay. And of the, I think there's 10 other laneways on the island. Are any of them suitable for the similar type of access?
Yes, but the problem with those is, of course, distances. You know, that you have to go if you're carrying heavy materials. If I'm cutting down trees, or if I'm building materials in, you know, distance is everything. I don't want to have to go all the way around to the back of the island or to one of the other laneways, because then I'm going anywhere between 200, 300 feet. The laneways aren't in between every cottage, they're between every other cottage. So closure of this laneway would mean that there'll be 4 cottages distance between that I would have access to laneways.
Okay. So is it an option, Cindy, to give the person that has built on the laneway an easement or some kind of a legal agreement for them to have their house on the laneway and leave the other part of it open?
We can check, we can look into that. I think it'll be problematic because my understanding is part of the structure is located on the property to the east. So what they wanted to do was to obtain the lane and then also a lot addition from the other property owner, so they could basically shift the lot lines to encompass the whole. They have an agreement with the property owner, I believe, to the east, so that they could do sort of just realign the boundary line. So they wouldn't be able to do that if we don't, if we just convey an easement as opposed to a transfer.
Do you think either side of the lane would be willing to give an easement to the folks that could go with their property?
We could certainly investigate that. Mr. Armstrong is on, I believe, virtually. I don't know if he has any comments or wishes to speak, but is he? Okay, maybe we'll just loop him into the conversation here. Paul, can you hear us?
Mr. Armstrong, can you hear us?
You did hit enable. Okay. Do we know what year the cottage was reconstructed? Can you, are you able to unmute him? He might know the answer to that.
Yeah. Rob, do you know how old the cottage is? Okay.
And he knows about, right?
It was,
You know when it was rebuilt? Do you know when it was rebuilt?
Pardon?
the original cottage was,
Okay, so it sounds like by closing this, we're creating a problem for some other folks. So I think we need to investigate if there is something else that could be done so that each party still has access and still can do what they want to do with it. Cindy, if we deferred this, would you be able to work with the parties and see what you could come up with?
Yep.
Is that something council would like to do with this one? Okay, so we're going to defer this motion to the new council, and Cindy will do some discussing and some mediating with the property owners and see what could happen, and we'll bring it back at that point. Okay.
Maybe before we sign off, is there anybody else online who had any comments that they wish to? Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello?
Hello, please go ahead and state your name too, if you don't mind.
Yes, no problem. It's Wes Funston. I'm representing my mother, Gail Miller, who owns lot 17 on Craig Island. And I just really quickly wanted to cover a couple of things. When the cottage was built, I mean, if there had been a permit taken out, it would have been made known at the time that they were building over top of the walkway, which my understanding there wouldn't have been. Otherwise, that would have been covered off at that point in time. The pathways, in my opinion, and my mom's opinion, are critical to the ability for the residents and their guests to move around on the island. They're no different than the sidewalks on Elizabeth Street. And for us to have those removed would be no different than a property owner on Elizabeth Street building a structure over top of one of the sidewalks. And my question for council would be, is if a property owner on Elizabeth decided to build a structure over top of one of the sidewalks on Elizabeth Street, would we be having the same discussion about them buying the property that their structure now sits on? These are critical to not only the navigation, but the fabric of the residents of the island and their ability to get from one cottage to the other, socialize with each other, and a big part of why we're all residents of Craig Island. So those would be my comments. I think clearly we're not for this motion being moved forward. And those are my comments. Thank you very much for the time.
Okay, thank you.
Another question I have for some of the island folks is, do people dock boats at the shore of these lanes? Are there docking facilities?
They're all right there, nose, right behind you.
Okay. And in terms of the lane at the back of the lots, as far as I can tell from the plan, it does look like that lane intersects with all of the lots. So maybe you can clarify how those smaller lanes between lots impact ability to move around to visit different property owners. Can you clarify that?
Again, my name's Mark Folks. If the laneway that goes from the front to the back of the island is the 12-foot laneway, and that basically traverses behind most of the property. So that's the main access going from property to property, but that's just going from the back side. To get to the shoreline, you need those 6-foot laneways, which is one of the 6-foot laneways that you're talking about closing off. And typically people will traverse I'll be going back onto one of the 6-foot laneways to the 12-foot and then either move, east or west, to wherever you're going. Your question regarding docking, that doesn't happen very often, because people are usually just moving themselves and not moving materials, although it does happen. There's no formal dock, obviously, on those 6-foot laneways.
Okay. Rob? Would you like to say something?
Can you come up to the microphone so
If you come to the
otherwise
mic,
nobody will be able to hear you out in the never room.
Well, I think the main problem is what happens at that point in that intersection where those guys we're talking about. The laneway changes at the back. So all those property lines come up at a 90-degree angle from the middle right away. So when it gets to the corner, they're all skewed like this. So that's changed everything for everybody there. So nobody really knows where they all are.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understood what you were trying to explain there. So the lane that we're dealing with is this one right
Yeah.
here. Okay, so can you just?
But see how these are all 90 degrees from here.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how they work. So you could go over to my place over here and look back this way. And 20 feet behind my cottage is my neighbor's property. That's just the way they designed everything. Like I'm right here, that's me here. I have a right of way on this side of me and one on that side of me.
so in fact, that angle would have possibly helped to create the situation where the person built on
Yeah.
that 6-foot. And
Yeah.
we have seen this in different parts of the township, including in the village of Charlotte Lake, where people have built out onto the road, which was not their property. And there have to be easements for those situations. So it is understandable. It's unfortunate, but now we need to deal with how we could fix this.
Yeah, like you're gonna have an issue here with no matter what, right?
Yes.
But I'm wondering if there's already not a precedent set for this. Is there not already a right of way that's already gone now?
No,
No?
Cindy's more into the law stuff than me.
Yeah, like I'm gonna say. I'm not sure where they are.
So to my,
I know there was a sale of a piece of property to another person. And they couldn't attach it because there was a right of way there.
Mm,
And then because nobody claimed it in 30 or 40, 50 years, I think they could claim it. So now they've, you know what I mean? They've added their property they bought from the neighbor
mhm.
onto the right of way. It's not a right of way anymore though.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not familiar with that. I'd have to look into that a little bit more.
That's that's the information I had. So.
So it definitely appears there is more information to be had
Yeah.
and more
Yeah,
discussion to be had.
Yeah,
And just so council's aware, I don't believe that, I think there's other cottages from the mapping that looks like this situation there could be other cottages that sort of straddle those sort of laneways, so it may come up.
like
you know,
that's
an
my
issue.
property right here. Like,
Which number are you, Rob?
I don't know.
19, 18?
This one here, let's see what
I
comes
used to
up.
be,
Is that you?
yeah,
476?
476.
Lots 14, 15, there's on ours, it's got 13, 12, 11, 10.
Yeah,
Which
but
one?
13 and 14, I guess, or
Here. Yeah, subdivision plan.
whatever.
I don't know.
Okay, well, I don't think we really even need to know that for tonight. I think it's obvious that this motion isn't going to be approved
Yeah.
and that more work needs to be done. So again, I'm going to suggest we defer this and all those in favor of deferral. Motion's carried. So we will
See what I mean?
go back
Go
and
back like,
Get one.
see what we can do. Yes, Philip.
Madam Mayor, can we ask staff to actually attend the site so we can have some visuals of this right away?
You'll soon be able to walk over on the ice and
Silas.
take pictures. There you go.
Yeah. And actually, they are fairly prominent though, those laneways. They're down at the back and in the front with their access. Yeah. And I've heard of different ones have cleared them for sure.
Okay,
Over there.
so they are cleared laneways and people do use them. So I think that we need to take that into account. And I want to thank everyone for attending the meeting and giving us the information. Okay, we're going to move on to bylaws. We have our first bylaw is moved by Sherry Wan, seconded by Bill McDonald, that bylaw 2022-63, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2017-42 as amended, being the procedural bylaw, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 8th day of November 2022. Discussion, all those in favor? Carried.
Oh, I see.
Motion moved by Bill McDonald, seconded by Sherry Wan, that bylaw 2022-64, being a bylaw to restrict the common law access over a highway, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 8th day of November 2022. Discussion, all those in favor? Carried. All right, that is it for bylaws. There's no notices of motion,
Correct,
no giving of notice of motion.
correct.
Any new or other business?
No, there is not.
Okay, we have a closed session. And I need a seconder on that motion. Bill missed it. Okay, moved by Sherry Wan, seconded by Victor Hayes, that council move into closed session under section 239(2) of the Municipal Act for the purpose of approving the minutes of the closed session held October the 25th, 2022. All those in favor? Carried. So we won't be long in closed session. We only have one